Where in the Folk is not and should not be viewed as a news source. Any names, places, or likenesses mentioned are purely fictional, and any information discussed is purely speculative. Guest opinions are their own and do not reflect those of anyone else. Where in the Folk is not responsible for content accuracy of any stories that are told or what people do with these stories. This show is vulgar, sometimes graphic, and due to its content, it should not be viewed by anyone actually.
Welcome to another episode of Where in the Folk. I hope everybody's had a great week. And we're bringing you the pain of this week. Myself is Cecil, almost say Clarence. My name is Cecil, and I'm joined by Tully and Morgana. So how do you guys want to get started?
I have a feel good. I think we should have a feel good every week, and then we can get into the depression.
We can start out with the Friday feel good.
That's right. You know, every once in a while, you'll see a story that just makes you stop and just there. So, Monroe County, Michigan, a father and his 12-year-old son were out bow fishing one quiet evening when they heard a loud thud. They look up, and according to them, there was a 6-foot-tall, dark-furred creature walking upright before disappearing into the woods. Even their dog froze. So, you know, you can go ahead and roll your eyes, whatever, but the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, and yes, that is a real thing, I looked them up, actually filed the sightings as credible, saying it resembled a gorilla-sized biped.
Nice.
So, but here's where it kind of takes a cool turn. It goes from, you know, a strange sighting to really brilliant marketing. A local dispensary called Unique Cannabis saw the news and ran with it. They put up a sign that read, "Bring photo proof of Bigfoot for a free pre-roll." So find Bigfoot, get some free weed.
Nice.
That's crazy.
So, you know, and that, where else in the world, you know, than Michigan? But said that, you know, it worked. The promo went viral. Local news picked it up. Reddit threads exploded. And then this sleepy little weed shot all of a sudden has worldwide attention.
That's exactly what I want to do. I want to go hunt Bigfoot, find them, get terrified, then go and get free weed and then get even more scared.
There you go. Hey, but make sure your phone's charged, you know, because you got to take them picture proof.
Exactly.
But, you know, hey, if you do spot him, maybe offer to split the joint. And he won't
God.
So,
No way. But anyway, that's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's good to have a cryptid back in the news. That's doesn't happen too often. Every week I kind of look for things that are cryptid oriented or new haunts that we haven't heard about, and it just don't hit the news cycle too often, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And you have to really dig. You know, and that's kind of, I follow 2 or 3 sites that usually have a section in their news of, you know, strange happenings and stuff like that. They're hit or miss. Some weeks I find really good stuff like this, you know, but then other weeks it's like, that's really not fun.
Yeah, and if anybody out there knows where you can find these and they're weekly, go ahead and send us links to WITF@gmx.com because I love reading about that stuff more than anything.
It's down there.
It's a lot more chilling. It's a lot more cool than
other way.
Yeah,
other way. That way. Yeah.
Okay, see, on my screen it's there.
But so before we get into what the headline is talking about, how's it going with Bowen this fine week?
Hey, Linda, not good. Not good.
They had a good run though. You got to give them credit.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make a determination if the one survivor is a psychological operation or not. Like,
that's fair.
It went up in flames. Like, there's videos of it actually poofing. So I have a hard time believing that there was a lone survivor, but that's neither here or there. But there was a air flight I don't know whether it's L or 171. It was in Aminabad. It left 269 people dead with one survivor. And they haven't really nailed down what caused the crash yet. They say it could have been, I actually saw a pilot last night talking about it. He said he thinks that there was a critical malfunction with the landing gear,
Mhm.
which causes, I guess, trim issues and acceleration issues. And once they lost acceleration, it's very hard at that altitude to get it back, which caused the crash.
Hey, and this actually crashed into a residential area, didn't it?
Yes. Well, yeah, I think it crashed into a hotel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I was thinking that, yeah, because part of the people that died were not on the flight.
And just a note for anyone listening, if you do, if you're from around the world, please, we do not speak foreign languages. So if you could, drop a comment in English, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I mean that's horrible. And Vishwash Kumar Ramesh was the sole survivor of this, and I mean I guess that's a silver lining, but it's horrible that these things keep happening, and loss of life is constantly happening like this. And you just didn't hear about these plane crashes as often back in the day, and I guess that's just our thing where we have access to world news now. But it really seems like we should go back to the blimps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially
Well,
the way that Boeing's going, it just keeps getting worse. The model that crashed yesterday, or not yesterday, but this week, that model had never crashed before.
Right. Well, and another thing too, I mean, off subject, but not, but you were talking about, air balloons and stuff. Really, what happened to that technology? Because it's like, they had that one big crash, and then after that, you just didn't have flying anymore until airplanes.
It looks like we got a bot in the chat, and I can't get rid of them.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna have
it's all good.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean,
nobody can see that unless they're on Twitter anyway. So
cool.
like Landa can't see those comments.
Yeah.
We're protecting Landa.
Tighten it up, Bowen. Tighten it up, Bowen. That's all we're asking. Let's save some people. And the Led Zeppelin, of course, exploded. But before that, air travel was blimps, and it was pretty successful. And they could most certainly put some kind of fuel in it now that's not flammable. I mean, you see the Goodyear blimp all the time. It hasn't went down. I seen it here in my town like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's flying perfectly fine.
Yeah.
My wife thought it was a UFO, but it was a Goodyear blimp.
But like I said, I mean, I just don't remember, and maybe I need to do a little bit more research, but I just don't remember there being a lot of Zeppelin crashes. I mean, like I said, the one big one, and they just like scrapped it. That would never happen today. They would send out 14 more just like it, and if 8 of them made it,
they already have.
Yes.
Yeah, they already
exactly.
Have. They already have.
Well, the whole thing about that is, it ties into totalitarian, because before there's a thought that the Airbuses were the main means of travel back then, and that they would stop and they like at these pinnacles and stuff, and people climb down and they recharge or whatever they did. And of course, the airplane came through that required the gasoline and all that good jazz, and here we are.
I would totally ride in a Zeppelin.
I would rather ride in a blimp than an airplane. It's a softer fall.
Yeah, that's it. You at least have some chance of it, that parachute effect.
Yeah, you would definitely know it's coming, but you'd be like, man, in 20 or 30 minutes, we're going to be on the ground.
But I feel like depending on where the landing was, as long as you were falling, you would still have time to jump.
Yeah.
My dad always theorized that. He's like, if you're on a helicopter and it's crashing, why don't you just jump at the last second? I was like,
you've already got the inertia, though. Like you already got the inertia from the object that you're in.
Yeah. I hope I never have to test it.
Same.
Well, I know we talked to David Weiss a couple of weeks ago. He had some thoughts on nuclear technology. So that got me thinking, with all the news of what's going on in Iran and Israel. Obviously, we're not going to get into the politics of that or the geopolitical stuff, but it got me thinking, because I feel like all we've heard, at least in my lifetime, is, Iran has nuclear capabilities, or they're on the verge of having nuclear capabilities. So it got me thinking, how long has this really been like a headline in our Western media? And it turns out the answer is for 55 years.
Yeah.
They've been using Iran as a I don't want to say a
Boogeyman.
scapegoat or a scarecrow, but definitely a geopolitical pawn. And we've talked about different aspects of this over the years. Like if you look at the countries with the most unrest, like Iran and Syria, North Korea, those are some of the last countries left that are not on the Federal Reserve. So there's a conspiracy there that the reason these countries are always having problems is because they haven't submitted to the Fed yet.
Mhm.
But I'll start from the top and then we can pause and talk about it a little bit. But obviously, yesterday Israel launched airstrikes targeting nuclear facilities, killed a lot of key people. I know Cecil's got a video queued up to kind of show the people, I guess, that were taken out by that. But they described the attacks as preemptive. There were conflicting news reports in Western media on whether or not our leader either supported or didn't support the strikes. There's a bunch of news articles that came out this morning that said he did not and told him not to. And then there's a bunch of news articles that came out later in the day that said that he did actually support it. But the scale of the damage is unclear. That we know that they've hit a bunch of their military sites, a bunch of their nuclear sites. And then just earlier today, around 2 p.m., so 5 hours ago, Iran started shooting missiles back at Israel. And from some of the videos that we saw earlier, they were actually overwhelming their Iron Dome. And we've talked about that even a couple of weeks ago, that they've got enough of an arsenal. If they fired enough missiles, they could totally get past. Because you have to think, Israel's the size of New Jersey.
Mhm.
It's not a big place, even though they have a big stick.
I was gonna say they're like a chihuahua.
Yes, that's a good description.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to. I'm not sure which video it was, Cecil, but I did send you a video. It's not that one. There's one of just the people that they took out and the description of who they were. I think it's that one.
It is.
Maybe we could play that and talk about it.
We need sound.
I'm going to feedback anyway.
Do we need sound?
You might as well.
Okay.
We can't talk.
We don't need sound. So I'll go ahead and read all these because reading it. So the first one is Commander-in-Chief Hossein Salama.
It's spelled salami. I don't know how you pronounce it.
The next one is Commander of IRGC's Aerospace Forces, Amir Allah Halazidi. I'm horribly mispronouncing these names. Hajizadeh. Let's see. They got Mohammed back here, Major Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Iran. Ismail Kwani, Commander of IRGCs, and the former head of atomic energy, Faryadon Abisi, and Mohammed Taranchi, Iranian physicist. I tried my best on the names. I'm a hillbilly. I can't pronounce things properly, so I hope I did as good as I could.
Yeah, so they took out physicists, military leaders. They initially thought they took out the leader, but they did not.
It's a very trying time because this definitely happening over there. And, there's a lot of civil unrest here too, and the whole nuclear aspect of it is what people mainly fear worldwide. And before you sent this, I heard ramblings of this, and I tried to deviate from this because honestly, it's like the same game playing over and over. It's been going on for a year or two now, like an actual war, but they've been at odds for thousands of years. And when I first got on here, the only thing I seen pop up on the news article when you first pull up a homepage was best states to live in during nuclear attack. Nuclear attack unit.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to some people this morning. They had no idea any of this was going on. So I think it's a little bit different. Like, it's not as widespread panic as it probably should be. Because they have been at odds with each other for 2,000 years, holy wars were fought between those people. So I think people are just like, this is another thing.
And I remember too, growing up, now kids are taught, active shooter drills. We were taught nuclear drills because of the Cold War. The Russians are coming, they're going to take over. They're going to, kill all of our people. They've got the bombs, well, we've got the bombs too. So if one of them pushes, the other's going to push, and we need to know how to survive that.
Well, one of the things that isn't being talked about a lot right now that probably should be, the one thing that we talked about a couple of months ago, which was the BRICS alliance. The I in that is for Iran.
Yeah.
The C is for China, and the R is for Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And if Russia and China get involved in defending Iran, there's going to be huge problems. We're all going to be sitting at the Chinese D-Day.
We're going to need those nuclear drills.
Yes, not a good situation. And
the I is in the Iran, by the way.
Iran is part of it for sure.
Yeah, but it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. I just wanted to go ahead and make that correction.
Great. Great. Thank you.
That's BRICS. Because when you said, I was like, wait a second.
Well, Iran definitely has a strategic alliance with China and Russia. There's no question.
Yeah.
And we're already having problems with Russia. I think we're 9/11 away from a world war.
Absolutely. It seems like that's the way that we've been navigating this last 6-7 years.
So if you think about the war machine, it's been settled for the most part for a while, like as far as America being involved, and it's been 24 years since 9/11. And I don't know, the people just aren't hopped about going to war like they used to be.
Right.
So I think it's going to take something like that. It's going to take something like that to initiate a world war.
Well, you've got what, like 25, 30 years between World War I and World War II. Then another 25 years between World War II, Vietnam. Another 25 years between Vietnam and Desert Storm. And then another 25 to 9/11. I mean, so we're about ready.
Yeah, but this ain't going to be a middle of the mall war, though. We're talking about like the scariest weapons that humanity's ever seen, the highest technology, drones everywhere, and artificial intelligence targeting people on the battlefield.
Yeah. Well, that's the weekend that I wasn't there when y'all were doing the free for all and everything. You showed the videos of the AI. The Democrats did this, and then the Republicans did this, and they, like I said, it's like the war of the worlds in the 30s.
Yes.
The right person is going to put the right thing in the right place, and people are going to freak the hell out, and that's going to be your tipping point. I think that somebody's going to do something stupid because they saw the right AI and didn't question it.
It very well could be. I personally do not like the idea of being chased down by a Chinese robot dog.
Hell no.
but that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, they've got production lines. You know, China's massive. They produce most of our stuff.
Right.
So if they start getting involved, if Russia gets involved, China has to get involved.
Right.
That's like the line in the sand. And I guess the question is, like, yeah, you could say like by principle, because we created Israel and the thing that it is today. Like, you know, we set up Mossad, we set up their military, and have worked very closely with them over the years. The last person that wanted to do a check of their nuclear facilities got assassinated back in 1963 or whatever it was.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't know. Like, I think at some point the question becomes, do you risk, if they really truly believe that there are nuclear weapons, do you risk the state of New Jersey for the safety of the world?
Very good question.
On principle alone. When going back to what we were saying a minute ago, they've been at it for 2,000 years. Like, I don't know. I'm inclined to say that it's not our business. But it is our business because we created it. You know, it's like it's a double-edged sword. But one thing that I pulled out of the archives here, the first time that Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu publicly discussed Iran as a threat was in 1992. He started talking about them being a threat in 1992.
Is that the right video?
We can play that one.
I mean, I don't know. I thought you was leading into a video. My bad.
No, we can play that one.
My whole thing is, like, before we play the video, like, it really is a weird moral question. Like, first off, we're policing the world. We've been doing that forever. Is that right of us to do? But then at the same time, do we want to watch other countries fall to mass casualties and not do anything?
Yeah, but it's a chessboard. It's a chessboard. And you're saying
we're going to be doing that to the other country if we do help that country. So it's kind of like,
would you sacrifice the whole board for a bishop? Is what the question is. And you've got 300 million people here in America. And is it our business when a foreign leader decides to start bombing a country?
Yeah.
I mean, even if we did start it, it wasn't us that launched those missiles.
Preemptively, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They attacked them unprovoked in the middle of peace talks.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the facts. I mean, it's the facts of what it is. We were in peace talks with Iran to denuclearize their country within the last 2 weeks.
And it's kind of that whole thing too, though, like the hillbilly saying that we used to say all the time, you're my friend whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah.
And, and you know,
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's what we used to tell each other all the time back in the day. Like, man, are you with me? And I'm like, you're my friend whether you're right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? And you know, we'd scorch the earth for people we love. But it's so political, man. It's insane.
It is. It's hard to stay out of it. But I mean, here's the thing. We can talk about it apolitically like we are.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we have to address some of it because depending on how this goes, we may not be sitting here in a month.
It's true.
Because of, you name it. But if they start pulling out all the bells and whistles, you've got EMPs and everything else. So this is a scary beginning.
It is, you know, and a sad thing, and like I said, you know, not being political in and of itself, but it is a reality, you know, that military enrollment is way down. So if we get drugged into a world war, you know, young men like you all are very susceptible.
Listen, in World War II, they drafted all the way up into 50s. Like,
exactly.
So,
but you know, and here's where I'm going to get a little political, but not so much. But the thing about it is, the elites, as we refer to them, their kids are not going to go. It's going to be our kids. our loved ones, our people. And
Yes.
that pisses me off.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the moral question
Mhm.
of what Cecil was saying is like, you know, how far do you follow your friend into the cave
Yeah.
Right. You know,
and you're choking to death and be like, we need to turn back.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, at some point you have to say, okay, put down the crack pipe. You're going to kill yourself or off yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's up to them over whether they put it down or not. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean,
it's
I
a
can,
rough.
so the history though of Iran as the boogeyman, because that's what I titled the show.
Yeah.
Like we said, it spans 55 years, and it starts in 1970 with the headline that Iran launches nuclear program under Shah. In 71, it was U.S. backs Iran's nuclear energy ambitions. And the U.S. actually encouraged Iran's civilian nuclear program. If you go back and look at Iran in the 1970s,
Yeah, it was nice.
it's just like when you Google Afghanistan in the 60s and 70s.
Oh yeah, it was like the beach, and it's crazy how much different they are.
Yeah,
And-
they were very westernized. Like everybody was wearing pants and sundresses.
And I would say that we probably played a big part with our intelligence agencies with destabilizing that.
Yeah.
But so it goes on like this. Everybody's all good with the nuclear program until 1977, where it says that they start to raise eyebrows in Washington. And then 1978, Iran's nuclear program faces political turmoil. 1979, the nuclear program was halted by a revolution. 1980, it was dormant amid war. 81, ambition still on hold. 82, Iran begins nuclear revival program. 83, Iran seeks nuclear technology despite war. 84, U.S. notes Iran's nuclear interest with concern. So in 15 years, it went from us helping them stand it up to we're scared of it in the West.
But what I do like about 1983 is that Iran approaches China and Pakistan for nuclear assistance.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably the problem, right? Which is probably why it was raising concern.
Yep.
1985, Iran's nuclear program raises proliferation fears. 1986, I think I said 85 right there. 80 or 89 instead of 85. 86, Iran's nuclear ambitions linked to regional power. 87, Iran acquires nuclear know-how, U.S. warns. 88, Iran's nuclear program gains traction post-war. 1989, Iran's nuclear revival sparks Western unease. 1990, Iran seeks nuclear technology amid post-war recovery. 1991, U.S. warns of Iran's nuclear ambition. 92, Iran's nuclear program raises alarms in Washington. 93, Iran pursuing nuclear weapons, U.S. claims. 94, Iran acquires centrifuge technology, sparking fears. 95, Iran is 3 to 5 years from nuclear bomb, analysts say. 96, Iran's nuclear technology under scrutiny. 97, Iran advances centrifuge program, West alarmed. 98, Iran's nuclear intentions questioned by IAEA. 1999, Iran's Ahmad plans signals nuclear weapons push. 2000, Iran's nuclear sites expand. 2001, Iran's Natanz facility sparks nuclear fears. 2002, Iran's secret nuclear sites exposed. 2003, Iran hid nuclear activities. Obviously not.
No.
2004, Iran's nuclear program faces sanctions threat. 2005, IAEA censures Iran for nuclear violations. 2006, UN sanctions Iran over nuclear defiance. 2007, Iran halted the nuclear program. 2008, Iran expands enrichment, defies UN. 2009, Iran's Fordo site reveals hidden nuclear threat. 2010, Stuxnet targets Iran's nuclear program. 2011, IAEA again. Iran's nuclear program has military dimensions. That sounds intelligent.
Yeah.
2012, Iran's Fordo site built for nuclear weapons, experts say. 2013, Iran's nuclear talks begin. The threat persists. 2014, Iran's nuclear talks stumble. Fears of breakout grow. 15, Iran's nuclear deal signed. Threat contained? 2016, Iran complies with JCPOA, but suspicions linger. 2017, President calls Iran nuclear deal a threat to security. 2018, U.S. exits JCPOA. Iran's nuclear threat resurfaces. 2019, Iran breaches JCPOA, nears nuclear weapons capability. 2020, assassination of nuclear scientists heightens Iran's threat. 2021, Iran enriches to 60%, signals nuclear threat. 2022, Iran's nuclear advances spark global alarm. 2023, Iran's uranium stockpile nears bomb threshold. 2024, Iran's mothership nuclear site exposed, raising fears. 2025, Israel strikes Iran preemptively over nuclear sites that we've been talking about since 1970.
Yeah.
And also, I had to throw in a consolation, because when we were seeing all the orbs and UFOs last year and this year, they said that the orbs could be invading from Iranian drones emitting from a mothership they had off the Atlantic coast.
And they still haven't came out with what those were.
So who's the problem here? Is the problem the news? Is the problem really? I mean, who knows? It's hard to discern.
Can I ask a question? Because it just strikes me. Okay, so Israel strikes Iran's nuclear sites. If they've got all that uranium and stuff and all these bombs, shouldn't that have been a bigger ass explosion?
Are they having Chernobyl and Iran?
Right, there you go. Exactly.
I would think
exactly. That if you have that much nuclear material, that yes, there would be a huge incident that everybody would be wanting to contain, like they did Chernobyl.
Yes.
And it is popping off real heavy. Like even 2 hours ago, I'm looking right here, Israel Air Force intercepts a Iranian UAV. So they're shooting down UAVs and all kinds of crazy stuff is going on over there. And that would be a fear, you would think, if there's nuclear bombs located in these sites right off your border.
If you're my neighbor and you're the size of New Jersey, you might be concerned that you're blowing up nuclear facilities.
Yeah, right across the border. I mean, they flew in on hand gliders when they came into Israel. I mean, they're not that far away. They can't be too far away. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't know, man. The world is a soul harvester, is what it is.
It's really this is gonna get us into World War III. I have no doubts, and it's gonna be another event where innocent lives are lost, and then everybody rallies. It's like, you don't touch America, and then we go and wipe them off the face of the planet, and
for 5 minutes, we as a country bond.
Yes,
and come together.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we may not all get along, but we get along when somebody kills innocent people.
Like I can tell my little brother he's an asshole, but you better stay away from him.
Yeah,
because I'll be the first person to stand between you.
Yes, it's just very unfortunate because it's a very similar playbook to how we got involved in World War I. Very similar playbook to how we got involved in World War II. There was dissent and craziness going on all over the world, and they knew about Pearl Harbor and let it happen.
Yeah, hours before.
Yeah. So
the whole brother thing. That's like when people tell me Tully's asshole. I'm like, yeah, he is. He's my asshole.
There you go. Exactly.
I'll cook you dinner.
That's right. Like I said, we can be having a full-on fight. And okay, perfect example. The first time I ever met Mo's niece, and she's 10 years older than I am, but I was arguing with this other girl over something, and his niece, who I didn't know was his niece at the time, comes up and says, "Oh, you're not going to talk to my friend that way." I'm like, I don't know who you are. You need to stay out of that. Stay out of it. And the girl that I was talking to said, "Well, I don't know why Mo likes you." And his niece goes, "Wait a minute, you're dating my Uncle Mo?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, you need to go and leave her alone, damn it. That's my uncle's girl."
Yeah.
Never laid eyes on the girl, but
Yeah,
we were family then.
And keep in mind, when we were talking about this a minute ago, that's only one article selected per year. Like, I'm sure it went on all year, every year.
Yeah.
I mean, in church when we were kids, man, they talked about this. You know what I'm saying?
Who is the problem? Is it Project Mockingbird? We have been misled and mistreated as humans by a ruling class of people who could care less. Because we spend all this ordinance on a war, and then at the end of the day, we have to pay more money to remake everything, and they're making money on both sides of it. They're financing both sides of the war. If I'm not mistaken, I could probably pull articles, but in the last 3 years, didn't we give Iran a couple $1 billion?
Probably.
Yes, it was money we had confiscated of theirs that we were holding because they weren't complying, and then they complied. I heard you right there in that one thing.
Yeah,
and
they complied, got their money
back, and
So it's almost like backwards land. Like if you've had problems with them for 55 years and they have a half a year of good behavior, why would you give them billions of dollars?
Yeah. I do not disagree with you. That's crazy.
I mean, this is one of those things that they talked about. Like, I'm going to bring it back up like they used to talk about in church, whenever it finally comes down to the final war, it's going to be between these two nations and things like that. And it seems like they use that still as a religious prop for this whole thing. And if you go by what the people in these countries are fighting for, they believe they're fighting for religious reasons.
Well, those two religions in particular have always hated each other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way to sugarcoat that. There were entire wars that have been fought over those two religions clashing, and they've been clashing for 2,000 years.
Right. Or like, look at Afghanistan. Yeah, they've never been defeated because nobody can get in there and maneuver around in it and everything, but they've been at war for thousands of years.
Yes.
So when it's crazy.
There's some things, and don't get me wrong, people say you can't bomb your way out of certain stuff. If you use a big enough bomb, you can, but that also has implications.
Yeah.
Right.
Which goes back to, if they had all these huge bombs and nuclear facilities, they should be having a Chernobyl level event right now. And so far, I haven't heard of one.
Well, they say that nuclear power station meltdowns is different than nuclear bomb going off. That's the reason people was able to go back into Japan and why people live out in Nevada and stuff.
Well, the Japan, they say that it was because it was atomic and not nuclear. Nevada should be uninhabitable.
Oh, yeah, the whole state. As many bombs as they set off. I'm sure there's areas where they're like, "Oh, this is radiated."
Yeah,
but shouldn't it be the United States as many as they set off there, like the whole United States, with the fear that they put behind these bombs,
with the radiation traveling through airways and stuff? They couldn't contain all of that. I agree with you. There should be a whole line of radiated land from those tests.
And they should have this huge, Constantine wire wrapped fence around the area if it is that radiant.
Who's to say that there isn't? Because I mean, think about the cancer rates now compared to back then. But
that's the food and water.
Yeah. We can't even drink our water here because it's cloudy. Haven't been able to for months. I don't know. Oh no, it's
Well,
scary times.
I think we're doing as good as we can as non political people,
Mhm.
to bring an objective view to all of this. And hopefully, if you're out there listening, we don't say all this stuff to make people lose hope, but just to be educated when that event does come, to maybe not jump straight to the conclusion of we have to go kill these people.
Yeah,
Right.
Um, when the
Yeah.
ultimate goal is it is very obvious the ultimate goal is to go to war.
that's ultimately what they want to do. 100%. That's the goal right now.
Well, it's like you start people, like I said, people are angry right now, but they're going to hit a tipping point where people are going to start realizing, wait a minute, why are we angry? What's causing it? Well, we're probably fixing to hit that tipping point, so they've got to do something. Like say, and it's got to be a major event.
You can't complain about the prices of grocery if a state gets
bombs.
wiped off the map or something.
Exactly.
And stay off the regular news. I mean,
Yeah.
I was watching Anchorman. This is a weird way to keep up with me. And it was, the depiction of the news anchor from the 70s and 80s is pretty accurate in Anchorman. Like, oh, here's Bumbo the squirrel surfing, having a good day. When is the last time you watched news and there's like, oh, here's a pretty little dog, he's up for adoption?
Yeah,
you don't see
My-
anything like that.
My local news does that on Tuesday nights, and if you're going to watch news, watch local, just because you at least kind of know what's going on in your town.
Yeah.
Well, we have a friend who's texting about this whole thing, and I'm sure we'll hear it tomorrow. But whenever I was like, Iran's firing back, he's like, well, Israel has the most premium military in the world and intelligence, and they're just going to wipe them off of the face of the planet. And it's just like, you can tell like what flavor of news intake he's subscribing to, because it's very black and white right now on what media you're consuming.
Right.
I'm
going to say, I'm going to pitch 1440. I get one email a day. It's from a news source called 1440. There's no slant. They just say, this happened today, this happened today, this happened today. Then you can decide if you want to go look for something else, about it and everything. Yeah. And they're little short blurbs. So that's where I get most of my news from. And then the stuff we talk about.
Yeah. That's like us, except sometimes we're long-winded about it, like today.
Yeah.
But
sometimes you got to be.
Yeah, I think it deserved, and there's still videos and stuff. We can save the videos for if the stuff progresses. But
and then you'll have more videos.
Yeah, we've already got 70. So,
but the main thing is, don't lose hope. There's always some kind of silver lining in anything that happens in this world, no matter what it is. Don't believe everything you hear on the news, because it is all literally ran by like 5 people. Yeah. Everything you hear is
and they get together for dinner once a month.
It's being paid for. The stuff that you consume, a lot of it is being paid for by people that you probably would not want to associate yourself with.
Yeah, probably.
They all have blood on their hands.
Yeah,
but if you don't already follow us, go to Rumble, give us a follow. If you're listening on BitChute, and you really want to say something to us instead of leaving a nasty comment, go to Rumble and follow us, and jump on the next live.
I love the nasty comments, so keep them coming. They're nice.
So yeah, wherever you're watching, give us a follow. Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Kick. This is a great conversation for Twitch.
I'm gonna fuss at you. Kick is spelled wrong.
Is it?
K-I-K.
Yes, K-I-K.
Then whose logo is that? I pulled the logo from Google.
I don't know, but hey, I'll find out real quick.
It might be completely different.
Oh, you know what? I think you guys are confused on what we're actually on.
Probably.
Put in KICK streaming.
But
Okay.
what's happening on Weird Awakenings tonight?
That might be why I couldn't find you after I joined KIK, and they said nobody named Where in the Folk exists on our platform. I'm like,
yeah,
that
probably.
sucks.
We're talking about Men in Black.
Men
Yes,
in Black.
and our very own Scott Baker, who worked for the CIA, is joining us.
You should jump on, Cecil.
I can't. The internet will start fucking up. It does every time. Tell Scott I miss him though. I might pop on. I don't know. We'll see.
You should. You should.
I've done zero research.
You should. We're just gonna talk. We're gonna give Scott a hard time. I've done zero research because I wasn't supposed to be here tonight.
Hey,
Yeah.
I didn't do a lot of research, but I got a lot of questions for him.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a man in black. I'm joking. So tune into Weird Realities Network.
Mm-hmm.
Weird Realities Network. Weird
Yeah.
Realities Network. On
Follow us wherever you're watching.
Facebook, Twitter, and come on over and listen to about Men in Black with a former CIA, former with quote with those things, former CIA agent. So thank you all for watching us, because we are all watching you.